Thursday's Economic Roundup with Ken Schortgen of thedailyeconomist.com.
Welcome back to the Angel Clark Show. We are joined now by Ken Schortgen. Ken is the National Finance Examiner for Examiner.com. He has the website thedailyeconomist.com. And Ken joins us once a week to talk all things economics. Ken, I want to thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And so now I get to ask you my favorite question of the week. What's going down in economic Groovetown, dude, man?
Oh, we get to go back to our normal foreign news sources, China and Greece. Those are the two big things. Greece, of course, last week, probably after the show, they missed their IMF payment. So they were virtually on default right then. And so the IMF and the ECB were sort of working back and forth, trying to figure out what they were going to do. Or were they going to allow Greece to default? Were they going to bend their will and all of a sudden say, okay, we'll lend you some money to keep you going, yada, yada, yada. And today there was two different pieces of news that came out. One of them, it doesn't matter to the Greek people anymore. They are doing bank runs like you wouldn't believe.
Oh.
In the past 4 days, they've taken close to $1.3 billion out of their banking system. They don't trust if the Syriza party comes up with an agreement, it's going to have to be. It's going to have to bring in some more austerity. So people don't want to bail in. They don't trust that they're going to have access to their cash. So they really don't care. At this point, they're just taking their money out hand over fist, which, of course, means that the Greek banking system is quickly becoming insolvent. They don't have any cash.
Okay.
And so the spiral is going down. But Germany decided that, well, we're not going to force all these austerity movements on you. We just want one reform, and then we'll go ahead and give you some temporary cash. And so it's been going back and forth with that. But unfortunately, these type of missives, both from Greece and from Germany, have been going on for the past 2-3 months, and nobody knows for sure what exactly is going to happen, because when a piece of news gets reported, then all of a sudden, like 30 minutes to 2 hours later, the opposite party comes out and says, "Oh, no, we never said that. We're not going to do it." So it negates exactly what the news was. So until we actually see some cash, it's still a bunch of rhetoric and hyperbole.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing that's come out in the past 3 or 4 days has been China. Now, last week we also had the big G7, and it used to be the G8, the top 8 economies. But of course, when economic sanctions were put in, the U.S. decided that summarily they were going to just dump Russia. Russia was no longer allowed to be part of the G8, even though they're one of the top 8 economies in the world, and they are virtually a superpower by their energy position in the world. But, that doesn't matter. The U.S. is an empire, so they can do what they want, right? Anyway, since that time, of course, Russia has been upping their military. So has China. And they've been showing their military strength. But in the meantime, there have been a lot of financial and monetary things happen that are like making the G7 look like an absolute laughingstock. Now, on Sunday, I posted an article over on one of the sites, a paid site I write on, called Rogue Money. And I sort of threw this out there, not knowing what the future would bring, i.e. what Monday would bring.
Yeah.
But I made the position that China, one of the reasons that China is supporting Russia so much is because China is going to be using Russia as a proxy. The same way Russia was looking to use Greece as a proxy to get into the EU, China is going to use Russia as a proxy to introduce yuan-based trade and to increase the use of their RMB, their currency, throughout the world. It started out with Sberbank, one of the larger banks in Russia, started issuing letters of credit that were yuan-based letters of credit for trade that was going to allow China to go through Sberbank to have bilateral trade with another country, say Thailand, and their currency. And it was going to just be used, it was going to be like a central point for the free market trade. Well, it was based on that I started throwing out the assessment that Russia was going to become a proxy for China. And then all of a sudden, the big story hit on Monday. Russia's third largest oil producer is now settling all its crude oil sales in Renminbi. The petro yuan, as a competitor to the petrodollar, is now fully 100% in place.
Wow.
The end of the petrodollar as the singular reserve currency is done. Monday was it. Oil by the largest producer in the world, Russia, is now settling their transactions in renminbi, and they've already said that very soon they are going to no longer accept dollars and only accept trade in renminbi, in the yuan.
Oh my goodness! Really?
Yep. And interestingly enough, we have seen the dollar, which about a month and a half ago, reached a high of 102, 101, 102. It's now down to 94.5. Countries are dumping dollars by the boatload, and of course, this is not being a big thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's not something that
the
they're
U.S.
going
is
to
never
talk
going
about
to admit. But it's so ironic that these two things occurred immediately after the G7 meeting. So the geopolitics of finance is going tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat. Let's see what else we have. This came out today. Dubai. Now, Dubai, of course, is it's not like Saudi Arabia. It's more of an open free trade arena in the Middle East. Though it is, them and Qatar are really the most burgeoning cities that are taking place in countries that are taking place in the Middle East. Dubai has the potential to become a clearing hub for the Chinese currency, and wants to attract more Chinese financial firms to invest in the free trade zone. So Dubai is what they're doing is they're telling everybody publicly, we are offering to be a Chinese currency clearinghouse to help float the currency and letters of credit, just like Russia is doing, through the entire Middle East.
Wow.
How long until OPEC sees this and decides that they no longer want to be under the thumb of the dollar and of the U.S. foreign policy, and say, you know what, we've already got a yuan clearing hub right here. We're just going to change our currency for oil from the dollar to the renminbi.
I tell you what, Kem, hold on to that thought. We have to step away for just a moment. The Angel Clark Show will return. More with Ken Schortgen coming up. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. She put on a knapsack and started walking. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. She was able to navigate her way through challenges and obstacles, getting odd jobs along the way, and hopping freight trains as a main mode of transport, until one day she awoke in the redwood forest, looked around the makeshift camp built upon mounds of dirty kid trash and hidden back into the trees, and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo, written by Brooke Willett, narrated by Angel Clark. Get your copy from audible.com today.
Well, Goldman Sachs are scum. I mean, that's the bottom line. They basically have co-opted the U.S. government. They've co-opted the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve functionality. They've co-opted the Obama administration. Barack Obama, dances to Goldman Sachs' tune, and they are really crooked and abominable in what they've done. You just remember Hank Paulson held Congress hostage, took him in the back room and said, give us $700 billion. We're going to crash this market.
And now, Wednesday's Economic Roundup with Ken Schortgen of thedailyEconomist.com.
America, for some reason, has allowed this coup d'etat to take place, a silent coup d'etat, where the Goldman Sachs and their friends now control the U.S. government. I mean, that's the bottom line.
This is the Angel Clark Show, your trusted source for the liberty impaired. Be a part of Angel's Army. Angel Clark.
Welcome back to the Angel Clark Show. We are joined right now by Ken Schortgen. Ken is the National Finance Examiner for Examiner.com. He has the website, thedailyEconomist.com. And Ken joins us once a week to talk all things economics. Ken, I want to thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. You've given us some really fantastic information that's also just a tiny bit intimidating. There's a lot of stuff, I think, in the works it's going to really change the way that many of us live our lives. And it seems like things are kind of getting to that point where stuff's going to start to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, and these are the pieces of the puzzle. We've just talked about Russia's banks are now going to issue letters of credit for bilateral trade in Chinese yuan. Their oil system is now doing the petro yuan, and Dubai, of course, wants to be a renminbi hub. By the way, the yuan and renminbi, they're the same thing. It's the equivalent of if we said $1 and $1.
Yeah.
The renminbi just means the people's money. It's like a slang term for the yuan currency. So when you hear RMB, renminbi, yuan, they're all the same. So Dubai wants to be a yuan hub for the Middle East, which how quickly is OPEC going to change over? And it coincides with what we talked about last week with Bill Holter, who works with Jim Sinclair. He said that if, and this is the intention, eventual intention, once China gets critical mass on their currency, when it's floatable around the world and in most primary uses like energy, trade, and commodities, they're going to bring in either a gold-backed currency or a gold-backed trade note, which is going to be those letters of credit we're talking about. And you can't trade with China or any of the partners of China unless you have gold, silver, or some type of resource to back your currency to buy these letters of credit. And if that happens, if they decide that with all of the money that has been printed and out there to supply the money just in the yuan currency alone, the price of gold would go over $60,000 an ounce.
It's so hard for me to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, because what we're doing is we're no longer pegging all the currencies to the dollar. We're pegging all the currencies to the value of gold, which means that if you have a stronger currency, it's going to cost less of your currency to purchase gold. But if you've got a $18 trillion debt,
an overinflated currency, overprinted currency.
Exactly. Then you're going to end up spending more of that currency to buy an ounce of gold.
Yeah.
And that's why this is the most important thing when we've been talking about. Don't try to worry about which currency is going to come out ahead. Gold is going to be the central factor, especially if the next financial meltdown, that will just accelerate it because everybody's going to scream, okay, this purely fiat currency system has failed. We're going back to what we know. We're going back to a gold or a resource-backed standard. So that's why buying gold is the most important thing, because it doesn't matter what currency comes out ahead in the next reset or the next financial system. Gold is going to be the center of it all, and then you can just purchase the currencies you need and come out ahead.
Yeah, that makes an absolute amount of sense. It makes quite a bit of sense.
Exactly. Well, there's a few interesting things coming up. We've talked a number of times about how September timeframe with either the Shemitah or a number of analysts have been talking September as the point of the next real collapse, financial crisis. Well, there's another thing coming up in September, and it makes you wonder why we're having things like Jade Helm or an exercise in Australia where they're doing something very similar between July and September, because France has decided that when the UN Security Council meets in the General Assembly in September, France is going to put up for a vote a resolution at the United Nations to establish a Palestinian state.
Really?
Yeah. The draft would define the pre-1967 frontier as a reference point for border talks, which means 67, Israel no longer controls Jerusalem. Jerusalem would be a joint capital between Palestine and Israel. You think Israel's going to let them get away with that?
That's going to piss off a lot of people.
Well, here's the point. In 1947, Israel was reestablished as a state by who? By the United Nations. So the United Nations can at any time revoke that charter.
Oh.
So if the United Nations decides that they want to create a Palestinian state based on territory that's already there and territory within Israel, Israel does not have a legal leg to stand on because their own country was established by the UN. And thus such, if Israel balks, they suddenly become a rogue nation to everybody in the General Assembly and the Security Council. They automatically cut off all their allies, especially if many of those former allies voted for the Palestinian state. So you think war footing is already in play right now with ISIS and yada yada yada? No, you talk about Israel fighting for its country's life. You're going to see a whole lot of things happen. So that's an interesting thing that's coming up September as well. We had the jobs numbers come out on last Friday, and everybody, woo, more than expectations, whatever. But there was an interesting note, and it's come out that the last 6 months, at a ratio, a margin of 3-to-1, foreign workers have been hired at a ratio of 3-to-1 over American citizens in all these new job numbers.
Wow!
And in the BLS page 6 view of this, where it talks about foreign workers, it doesn't discriminate between which ones are illegal and which ones are H-1B visas coming over as foreign workers. It's just foreign workers in a general umbrella. The vast majority of jobs since December 2007, or 75% to be specific, have gone to foreign-born workers, and it's a verifiable fact.
All right, Ken Schortgen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We have to step away for just a moment. Make sure you go to his website, thedailyeconomist.com. The Angel Clark Show will return.
Your trusted source for the Liberty and Bear Angel Clark starts now.
Welcome back to the Angel Clark Show. I want to have a chat with you all about something I was sent a link to this story, and I think it's kind of fascinating. Let me explain. There is a photographer. His name is Richard Prince. And Richard Prince decided that he was going to make some art. But his art is maybe not quite the same as art that you would expect from this day and age. All right, so let me just tell you what he did. All right, what he did is he went to Instagram, and I guess he found people whose selfies he liked. And he took their selfies, and he took a screenshot of their selfies, and that's his art. His art is a screenshot of someone else's selfie. Now, we have to have a chat about this, and I'll explain why. Because I think it's, don't look at me like that. I think it's fascinating and extremely friggin' clever. If these people uploaded their selfies as public so that anyone could have access to them, then he is getting past all legal ramifications by selling a screenshot of it. Because he's not saving the image, because if he saves the image, then Instagram can sue. Because like when you upload an image to Instagram, right? You're basically saying to Instagram, hey, you have the right to kind of do whatever it is that you want with this. Like, you now own it. And so by selling the screenshot, he's kind of bypassing all of that. He's getting away from all of that. It's no long. He doesn't have to worry about Instagram at all. But so I had this guy who came to me and said, he was kind of upset about it because he felt that it was immoral. Yeah, I mean, it is, right? There's a part of it that's quite immoral. He is profiting from someone else's image, but he's selling them. He's taking a screenshot. So you got the selfie, right? And then there's your selfie on Instagram. It's your picture. And then above your picture is your Instagram name. And underneath of that, you can see the likes and the comments and stuff. And so he just takes a screenshot of that. No cartoons, no nothing, just their selfie. He's selling them for $90,000 a pop. Yes, people are paying for it. He is breaking the bank. He is making one hell of a profit off of strangers' Instagram photos. And I think it is ingenious. I think it is one of the most clever things I've seen in ages. And I'm quite jealous, actually. I mean, if I had thought of it first, I wouldn't do it. Because it's someone else's selfie, right? So that's not something that I would really do. I have no desire to make money by selling someone else's selfie. Because my selfie is that fantastic. That it should be my selfie that's being sold. No, it's just random people. It's not celebrities at all. It's just like random dude down the street who takes a selfie in his bathroom, topless, and then uploads it to Instagram. But it's public. So anyone can access it. Richard Prince. I would say just Google Richard Prince. Prince is in the Prince of Egypt. Just Google it, man. I'm not going to share his website information, one, because I don't have it in front of me, and two, because then that's promoting him, right? Use the Google. It is there. But so he found a way to kind of manipulate this system. And one of the things that I really enjoy about this, in my opinion, is the fact that so many people upload their selfies and upload this and upload that, and they never not once consider the fact that someone could do something like this with their image. That by uploading your image to the internet, you are giving this guy and anyone else who wants it access to it. That's it. You are giving your personal image to whomever it is that has the desire to go to that website. So, it's a thinker for me. I also think it's ingenious. I think it's quite clever. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Is it immoral? Yeah, it is. But I absolutely adore it. And I think Richard Prince is a genius. And it's only going to work this one time. Like, you're not going to be able to go out now and take a screenshot of someone else's Instagram picture and sell that for money. I mean, you can try, but I don't think that's going to be a good business model for you. Just long run in the future, probably not going to cut it. But right now, it's being sensationalized because of this. So it's the perfect amount of press for it. The headline I see is selfie-ish art. Can a photographer get away with selling screenshots of other people's Instagrams for $90,000? And it brings up that whole intellectual property rights discussion. We could have that chat. We could. Yeah, right. It is a chat for Kinsella, but it's more for me. It's more like people post their images online and then don't give a second thought to what happens to it after that. They don't think twice. They don't care to think twice. They're just like, eh. And this is a prime example of what happens to your image after it's posted online. Anything is what happens. A random guy that you don't know takes a screenshot of it and sells it for 90 grand. You know why? Because you have put your image on the internet and turned it into basically public domain. So, sure, these people can get upset and angry and pissed off about what's happening to their Instagram selfie. They're the ones who put it up there. It's that simple. Like, I don't care if someone does that kind of stuff with my image or with recordings of me or whatever. It makes no difference to me. I set it and forget it and move on with my life. I do that on purpose. But I also understand what is happening when I put an image online. And maybe this will raise, a tiny bit of awareness about that. It is so awesome how many ways you can make money. You are likely correct there. We have to step away for just a moment. The Angel Clark Show will return. The 1929 series takes an unexpected turn into the life of Simon Sinclair, an unfairly institutionalized young man whose prophetic visions cause strife and heartache. His time inside the Massachusetts Asylum for Feeble Minds and Lunatics is a never-ending cycle of mind-numbing medications and so-called therapy sessions. It all changes when he meets Elizabeth, a young woman with an unstable personality and a dark, secretive past. A young woman Simon knows he's destined to love. As their passion for each other grows, their mental states become increasingly unstable, and others seek to pull them apart. Freedom is the only option, and together, they run, setting off a chain of events that directly touches the lives of the 1929 series cast of characters. Elizabeth's Heart, Book 2, of the 1929 series, written by M.L. Gardner, narrated by Angel Clark. Pick up your copy from audible.com today.